Today, we bring you a detailed summary of the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene, a timeless guide to strategy, influence, and human behavior. In this video, you'll discover all 48 essential laws, learn how power works, how to protect yourself from manipulation, and how to gain influence in life. From historical leaders to modern-day strategies, this detailed summary uncovers the secrets of ambition, loyalty, and survival. Let's dive in and explore the laws of power. Preface: The 48 Laws of Power. Power has always been the hidden force behind human behavior. From ancient kingdoms to modern boardrooms, it decides who rises, who falls, and who survives. Yet most people misunderstand it. They pretend it doesn't exist, or they fear to name it, while others quietly master it. This book is not about morality. It does not tell you what should be, but what is. Power is as old as history itself, and these laws are drawn from the victories and the failures of those who played the game before us: rulers, generals, visionaries, and even the unsuspecting victims of power. The 48 Laws of Power is a manual, a mirror, and a warning. Some will use it to win, others to defend themselves, but no one can afford to ignore it. To know these laws is to see the world more clearly, to protect yourself from manipulation, and to recognize the strategies unfolding around you every day. So, listen closely. These lessons are not commands, they are realities. And in a world where power is everywhere, awareness is survival. Law 1: Never outshine the master. Power is fragile. It rests not just on ability, but on perception, on the image others hold of themselves. At the core of this first law is a timeless truth: never allow your brilliance to make those above you feel small. History is filled with men and women of extraordinary talent who sealed their own downfall by failing to grasp this simple principle. They dazzled too brightly, forgetting that the higher a person's position, the more delicate their pride. When your light blinds the master, he does not admire you, he resents you. Take the story of Nicolas Fouquet, the finance minister of France under King Louis XIV. Fouquet was intelligent, ambitious, and eager to impress his sovereign. To demonstrate his loyalty and his sophistication, he invited the king to a grand celebration at his estate, Vaux-le-Vicomte. The evening was magnificent. The gardens sparkled with fountains, the halls overflowed with art, and the entertainment was fit for royalty itself. Everyone whispered the same thought: Fouquet's estate rivaled, even surpassed, the king's own palace. Louis XIV was not amused. What Fouquet intended as homage was received as a threat. If a servant could dazzle so greatly, what might he aspire to next? Within days, Fouquet was arrested. He spent the rest of his life in prison. His only crime was shining brighter than the master. Contrast this with the strategy of Galileo Galilei. When Galileo sought favor with the powerful Medici family, he did not display his genius by outshining them. Instead, he named the newly discovered moons of Jupiter after the Medicis themselves. He presented his discoveries as a tribute, not a challenge. By making his patrons feel larger than life, Galileo secured wealth, status, and safety. His brilliance served to illuminate the Medici, not to eclipse them. This is the essence of Law 1. Your superiors are not gods, but people, and people are ruled by ego. To expose their weakness, to highlight their inadequacies, even unintentionally, is to invite danger. Your task, then, is not to overwhelm them with your gifts, but to frame those gifts as extensions of their own greatness. This does not mean dimming your light forever. It means learning the art of discretion. Shine, but reflect your brilliance back toward those above you. Let them feel wise in your presence, magnanimous in your company, indispensable to your success. When you obey this law, you gain protection. Your talents are not seen as a threat but as loyal service. You build power silently, without drawing the fire of envy. But when you break it, when you flaunt your skill, your charm, your intelligence in a way that diminishes your master, you risk everything. The lesson is clear: make your master appear greater than they are. The higher you elevate them, the safer you become. Remember Nicolas Fouquet rotting in prison, and Galileo thriving under the Medici. Power favors those who know when to conceal their brilliance, and when to let others bask in the glow of their reflected light. Law 1, never outshine the master. To follow it is survival. To ignore it is ruin. Law 2, never put too much trust in friends, learn how to use enemies. Loyalty. It is the quality we long for most in those around us, and yet, it is often the most deceptive. Friends bring comfort, familiarity, and warmth, but in the ruthless world of power, friendship can blind us. When emotions enter the game, reason often leaves. Robert Greene warns us, friends are more likely to betray you than enemies. Why? Because friendship is woven with feelings, envy, rivalry, insecurity, all hidden beneath the surface of affection. When your friend senses that you are rising higher than them, when your success reminds them of their own failures, the loyalty you counted on can quickly turn into resentment. History offers countless lessons. Consider the fate of Michael III, Emperor of Byzantium. Michael raised his closest companion, Basil, from obscurity to power, showering him with titles and riches. Out of gratitude, or so Michael believed, Basil would remain loyal. But friends do not always remain content in your shadow. One day, Basil murdered Michael, taking the throne for himself. What blinded Michael was not a lack of intelligence, but a misplaced trust in friendship. Now compare this to the power of an enemy. Unlike friends, enemies have something to prove. They have no illusions of affection, no pretense of loyalty. If you win over an enemy, through alliance, through opportunity, through reconciliation, you bind them with necessity. Their survival depends on proving themselves trustworthy. Strangely, enemies often serve with more dedication than friends, for their reputations demand it. History remembers Abraham Lincoln for his brilliance not only as a leader, but as a master strategist of power. When he assembled his cabinet, he did not surround himself with loyal friends and yes-men. Instead, he invited his fiercest political rivals to join him. They became known as his team of rivals. Lincoln understood that those who once opposed him, if given a stake in his vision, would fight harder to justify their place. In elevating enemies, he transformed opposition into strength. This is the heart of Law 2, be cautious with friends, and learn to harness your enemies. Friends will expect too much, take liberties, and eventually reveal envy. Enemies, once neutralized, become allies forged in fire. So how should you act? Show friends only measured trust, never complete reliance. Keep your guard, no matter how close they seem. And with enemies, extend a hand, not out of sentiment, but out of strategy. A converted enemy can become your most loyal weapon. To follow this law is not to live coldly, but to live wisely. Friendship is sweet, but in the pursuit of power, it can be poison. Enemies, carefully managed, can become the pillars that hold your empire. Law 2, never put too much trust in friends, learn how to use enemies. Your survival depends on it. Law 3, conceal your intentions. Power thrives in secrecy. The more people know of your plans, the easier it becomes for them to interfere, sabotage, or counter you. The essence of Law 3 is simple, always keep your true motives hidden. Imagine life as a chessboard. If your opponent can read your strategy, every move you make becomes predictable, every strength exposed. But if you mask your intentions, if you shroud them in misdirection, others remain in the dark, uncertain, unable to prepare. And in that uncertainty lies your advantage. History teaches this law through the cunning of Otto von Bismarck, the Iron Chancellor of Germany. Bismarck was a master manipulator, yet he never revealed his true political designs. Instead, he cloaked his moves in half-truths and contradictory signals. He would speak warmly of peace while quietly preparing for war. He would assure one ally of loyalty while secretly courting another. Because no one ever knew exactly what he was planning, Bismarck's enemies could never unite against him. His mastery of concealment allowed him to unify Germany and rise as one of Europe's most powerful statesmen. By contrast, those who reveal too much often bring ruin upon themselves. Take the example of the great French statesman Cardinal Richelieu's rivals. They plotted openly against him, discussing their ambitions and alliances without disguise. Richelieu, ever watchful, uncovered their intentions with ease. Their transparency was their downfall. They made themselves predictable targets, and one by one, Richelieu crushed them. Concealment is not about lying outright, it is about strategic misdirection. Tell enough truth to seem trustworthy, but never enough to expose your full design. Feed others a decoy, something to fix their eyes upon, while you quietly move toward your true goal. Let them believe they understand you, when in fact they chase shadows. Think of it like the art of seduction. A mystery is always more compelling than a confession. By keeping your desires hidden, you draw others in. The moment you reveal everything, the spell is broken. So it is with power, what is unknown is feared, respected, and difficult to resist. The danger of ignoring this law is clear. If your intentions are plain, they will be opposed. If your motives are transparent, they will be exploited. But when you move under a veil of secrecy, no one can prepare defenses against you. They stumble in the dark, while you strike at will. So practice the art of concealment. Say less than necessary. Distract with false signals. Let others misinterpret your silence. And above all, remember, power is not only what you do, but what others think you might do. Law 3, conceal your intentions. Mystery is your shield. Deception, your sword. Invisibility, your power. Law 4, always say less than necessary. Words are like arrows. Once released, they cannot be taken back, and often, they reveal more than we intend. The heart of this law is restraint. The more you say, the more common you appear, the less you say, the more powerful you become. Silence carries weight. Brevity creates mystery. People are drawn to what is left unsaid, imagining meanings far greater than anything you could have spoken aloud. When you flood the air with words, you strip yourself of authority. But when you speak sparingly, every sentence feels deliberate, every pause heavy with significance. Consider the example of Louis XIV, the Sun King of France. He understood better than anyone that silence is a weapon. At court, he rarely spoke more than a few measured words. Petitioners would pour their hearts out, begging for his approval or favor. Louis would listen silently, perhaps nod, perhaps utter a short phrase, and nothing more. Because his responses were so few, so carefully chosen, every word he spoke carried tremendous weight. His silence left others anxious, uncertain, desperate to interpret his thoughts. The less he said, the greater his aura of majesty. Contrast this with the fate of American financier Bernard Baruch's rival, who constantly felt the need to justify himself with long explanations. The more he talked, the more transparent his insecurities became. Meanwhile, Baruch mastered the art of silence. He let others fill the air with chatter, often exposing secrets or weaknesses, while he revealed nothing. In the end, Baruch won respect, while his rival lost credibility. The danger of speaking too much lies not only in exposure, but in erosion of respect. Words are cheap. The more you spill them, the less valuable they become. Silence, on the other hand, is rare, and rarity breeds value. There is also strategy in saying less. When you remain quiet, others grow uncomfortable with the void. They rush to fill it, often revealing information you could never have obtained otherwise. In negotiations, in conflict, even in casual conversation, your silence becomes a mirror, reflecting others' thoughts and fears back upon themselves. To obey this law is to recognize that power is amplified by restraint. Say only what is necessary. Let your silence draw people in, let it heighten your mystique. The less you say, the more people wonder about you, and the more they attribute wisdom and strength to your silence. To ignore this law is to talk yourself into trouble. Words can betray intentions, expose insecurities, or provoke opposition. Many have lost power not through their actions, but through careless speech. So practice measured speech. Speak in fragments, not floods. Allow silence to do the work for you. And remember, in the theater of power, those who speak little are listened to most. Law 4, always say less than necessary. Silence is not emptiness, it is influence. Law 5, so much depends on reputation, guard it with your life. Reputation is the foundation of power. It is the invisible armor that protects you, the currency that buys influence, the shadow that precedes you before you even enter a room. With a strong reputation, you can intimidate, persuade, and conquer without lifting a finger. With a ruined reputation, you are vulnerable, exposed, and powerless. This law teaches us, defend your reputation at all costs, for it shapes how the world perceives you, and perception is reality. History is filled with figures who wielded reputation as a weapon. Take the legendary French statesman Cardinal Richelieu. Richelieu cultivated the image of a man who was all-knowing, all-powerful, and ruthless when crossed. In truth, he could not possibly control every conspiracy within France, but because his reputation suggested that nothing escaped his gaze, people feared him and hesitated to plot against him. His reputation was stronger than any army. Now consider the opposite, the tragic case of Charles Maurice de Talleyrand's enemies during the Napoleonic era. Many of them underestimated him, spreading careless rumors, mocking his limp, or questioning his loyalty. But Talleyrand, master of intrigue, understood that reputation was a weapon to be sharpened, not squandered. He defended his public image with cunning alliances and strategic silence. His rivals, who let their reputations be stained by recklessness, quickly fell into obscurity. Talleyrand endured. Reputation is fragile, it can be built over years and destroyed in moments. A single careless word, a rumor left unanswered, an insult ignored, can unravel the image you have carefully constructed. That is why Greene warns us, never let your reputation be taken lightly. Guard it with vigilance, as you would your very life. But guarding is not enough. The wise also use reputation offensively. Intimidate with it. Let others fear your name before they ever encounter your actions. The mere suggestion of danger, backed by your reputation, often achieves more than confrontation itself. Think of it as the roar of a lion, it warns others of power before claws are ever shown. To follow this law, you must cultivate consistency. Align your actions with the reputation you want to project. If you wish to be seen as generous, make gestures of generosity, publicly. If you wish to be feared, display ruthlessness in ways that will be remembered. The key is not who you are, but what people believe you are. Ignore this law, and you risk everything. A damaged reputation is like shattered glass, nearly impossible to restore, and dangerous to handle. When others lose respect for you, you lose the ability to influence them. Power slips from your hands like water through an open palm. So ask yourself, what is the reputation you carry? Is it intentional, or accidental? Does it serve you, or weaken you? Law 5, so much depends on reputation, guard it with your life. Build it, protect it, project it. For without reputation, power crumbles. Law 6, court attention at all costs. Power lives and dies in the spotlight. To remain unseen is to be forgotten, and to be forgotten is to be powerless. Law 6 reminds us, visibility is survival, attract attention by any means necessary. In the grand theater of human ambition, obscurity is your enemy. The world is crowded with voices, faces, and ideas, all competing for recognition. If you blend into the background, you disappear. But if you stand out, if you seize the gaze of others, you gain influence, for people are drawn not to the ordinary, but to the extraordinary. Consider the example of P. T. Barnum, the 19th-century showman who built an empire on spectacle. Barnum understood that it mattered less whether people loved him or mocked him, what mattered was that they never ignored him. When critics tried to humiliate him, Barnum leaned into the ridicule, turning controversy into publicity. His name was always on people's lips, and with each scandal, his fame only grew stronger. Barnum knew that obscurity was death, while attention, even negative attention, was power. Contrast this with those who shrink from the spotlight, who hide their talents out of modesty or fear. Their brilliance remains buried, their voices unheard. History rarely remembers them. Invisibility may bring comfort, but it never brings influence. But attention is not only about noise. It is also about mastery of presence. Louis XIV, the Sun King, ruled not just through military might but through spectacle. He staged elaborate ceremonies, dazzling his court with displays of wealth and grandeur. Every gesture was deliberate, every appearance designed to remind his subjects that he was not merely a man, but a radiant force at the center of their universe. By keeping the eyes of France fixed on him, Louis maintained power that no army could match. To obey this law, you must learn the art of attraction. Make your presence felt in any room you enter. Develop a signature, something that makes you distinct and memorable. This could be your style, your words, your audacity, or your mystery. Whatever it is, ensure that it sets you apart. But beware, not all attention is created equal. Court it, but control it. Too much reckless exposure can cheapen your image. The key is balance, be visible enough to command respect, but not so exposed that your mystique is destroyed. To ignore this law is to fade into irrelevance. Power demands recognition. Influence requires visibility. Those who remain in the shadows cannot shape the world, they can only be shaped by it. So embrace the spotlight. Draw eyes toward you, even if through controversy, spectacle, or boldness. Better to be feared, mocked, or gossiped about than to be invisible. For invisibility is the graveyard of ambition. Law 6, court attention at all costs. If you do not command attention, you command nothing. Law 7. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. Power is not about effort, it is about results. The world does not reward the hardest worker, it rewards the one who appears to achieve the most. Law 7 teaches us a ruthless but timeless truth: use the skills, labor, and knowledge of others, but ensure that the glory belongs to you. Throughout history, great leaders have understood that power is magnified when you make others toil while you reap the rewards. Let them sweat, let them struggle, let them innovate. You, meanwhile, position yourself as the orchestrator, the visionary, the face of success. Take the story of Thomas Edison, the celebrated American inventor. Edison's reputation as a genius was unmatched in his era, but much of his brilliance lay in his ability to harness the work of others. He built teams of skilled researchers and assistants, delegating the grind of experimentation to them. When breakthroughs came, it was Edison's name that shone in the headlines. His reputation grew, not because he did all the work, but because he mastered the art of taking credit for the results. Today, history remembers Edison, not the countless workers who toiled in his labs. Compare this to Nikola Tesla, a man of staggering genius who worked largely alone. Tesla poured his soul into his inventions, often neglecting money, recognition, and strategy. Though many of his ideas shaped the modern world, he lacked the ability, or the will, to seize credit. Others borrowed from him, profited from his vision, and left him impoverished and forgotten. In the contest of power, Tesla had the brilliance, but Edison had the strategy. And in the end, strategy triumphed. This law is not an invitation to idleness, it is a lesson in leverage. Time, energy, and resources are limited. By using the efforts of others, you multiply your reach. By standing at the center of achievement, you project the image of a master who achieves with ease. The greater your aura of effortless success, the more respect and power you command. Yet beware, this law demands subtlety. If people sense that you exploit them without acknowledgement, resentment grows. The secret lies in balance: allow others to feel valued for their labor, but never let them overshadow you. Give them just enough recognition to keep them motivated, but ensure that the spotlight remains on you. Ignore this law, and you risk exhaustion. If you insist on doing everything yourself, you will spend your life toiling while others, smarter in strategy, enjoy the rewards. Hard work is admirable, but power belongs to those who direct work, not to those who drown in it. So ask yourself, are you the laborer in the shadows, or the master in the light? Learn to channel the efforts of others, and let their genius build your reputation. Law 7. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. Leverage, not labor, is the engine of power. Law 8. Make other people come to you, use bait if necessary. Power is never gained by chasing, it is gained by drawing others into your orbit. When you run after people, when you pursue, you place yourself beneath them. You show neediness, impatience, and weakness. But when you make others come to you, when you position yourself as the prize, you reverse the dynamic. They bend, you stand tall. Law 8 teaches us, always attract, never chase. And if necessary, use bait, something irresistible that pulls others toward you. History offers a clear lesson in this law through the great Chinese general Zhuge Liang. Faced with an advancing army that vastly outnumbered his own, Zhuge Liang did not flee, nor did he rush recklessly into battle. Instead, he employed strategy. He ordered the city gates thrown wide open and had his soldiers hidden from sight. Then, he sat calmly on the city wall, playing a lute as if unconcerned. The enemy commander, suspicious of a trap, halted his advance and retreated. By appearing calm and confident, Zhuge Liang baited his enemy into overthinking. He made the enemy come to his terms, without raising a single sword. Contrast this with those who desperately chase after power. The more they beg, persuade, or pursue, the more they reveal their weakness. Their eagerness becomes a weapon against them. Those who pursue are easily manipulated, those who attract remain in control. Think of negotiations. If you are the one begging for a deal, you surrender leverage. But if you hold your ground, if you make others wait, if you create a sense of scarcity, they begin to chase you. Desire grows in the space of distance. Just as a fish cannot resist bait, people cannot resist what they feel is just out of reach. The key lies in patience and positioning. Do not run to meet others on their terms. Instead, stand firm and force them to meet you on yours. Draw them out with promises, with intrigue, with opportunity, but never reveal urgency. By appearing self-contained, you project strength. To ignore this law is to place yourself in a position of weakness. When you chase, you expose need. And need is the enemy of power. But when you master attraction, when you learn to make others seek you, your power doubles, for not only do you get what you want, you gain it without appearing to struggle. So learn the art of the lure. Offer what others cannot resist, then wait. The more they come to you, the more they bind themselves to your terms. Law 8, make other people come to you, use bait if necessary. Those who chase are slaves, those who attract are masters. Law 9, win through your actions, never through argument. Words are slippery. They can persuade in the moment, but they rarely change hearts. Arguments stir resistance, awaken pride, and invite retaliation. You may win the debate, but the victory is hollow, for while your opponent may fall silent, inside they burn with resentment, plotting their revenge. Power, however, is undeniable when proven through action. Do not waste energy convincing others with arguments, demonstrate your point so clearly through deeds that no words are necessary. History gives us a sharp example in the reign of Frederick the Great of Prussia. When his generals doubted one of his strategies, Frederick did not waste time debating or pleading. Instead, he marched his army forward, executing the maneuver flawlessly on the battlefield. The result spoke louder than any argument. His soldiers, awed by his decisiveness, never questioned him again. Contrast this with the philosophers and thinkers of ancient Athens, who spent endless hours in heated debate. They crafted arguments as sharp as swords, but those words rarely translated into action. Socrates himself, the master of rhetoric, won arguments but stirred resentment so deep that the city eventually condemned him to death. His brilliance in debate sealed his downfall. This law teaches us the futility of trying to conquer ego with words. People will cling to their opinions, not because they are right, but because pride demands it. Arguments put them on the defensive, hardening their resistance. But actions bypass pride. They leave no room for denial. Reality itself becomes your proof. Think of the workplace. You can argue endlessly with a rival about your competence, or you can quietly produce results so impressive that no words are needed. Success silences opposition more effectively than any speech. To follow this law, practice restraint. Resist the urge to argue, even when you are certain you are right. Instead, turn your certainty into decisive action. Let the outcome prove your case. People may doubt words, but they cannot dispute results. Ignore this law, and you will find yourself trapped in endless battles of pride. Arguments consume time, inflame enemies, and leave bitterness in their wake. Victory in words is fleeting, victory in deeds is permanent. So remember, actions are irrefutable. They silence critics, inspire followers, and build reputations. Speak less, act more, and let the undeniable weight of results carry your power forward. Law 9, win through your actions, never through argument. Deeds echo where words are forgotten. Law 10, infection, avoid the unhappy and unlucky. Emotions are contagious. Misery, despair, and failure spread like a sickness, leaping from one person to another without a word being spoken. Just as laughter can ripple through a room, so too can gloom and misfortune infect everyone who comes too close. This law warns you, beware of the unhappy and the unlucky, for their misfortune is not always accidental. Some draw disaster to themselves, and if you stand too near, their ruin becomes your own. History illustrates this with chilling clarity. Consider Lola Montez, the 19th-century dancer whose beauty enchanted men across Europe. Wherever she went, she left chaos in her wake. Kings, politicians, and artists, all fell under her spell, and all met disgrace, scandal, or downfall. King Ludwig of Bavaria was so consumed by his infatuation with her that he abandoned reason, enraged his people, and was eventually forced to abdicate his throne. Lola Montez did not merely suffer misfortune, she carried it with her, spreading it like a plague to all who drew close. We are often tempted by sympathy. We tell ourselves that helping the desperate, the chronically unlucky, or the bitterly unhappy is noble. Yet Greene reminds us that such associations rarely elevate us, they only pull us down. The unhappy feed on attention and drag others into their spiral. Their problems are bottomless, their energy poisonous, and their need endless. This is not a call for cruelty. Rather, it is a call for self-preservation. Surround yourself with the fortunate, the strong, the resilient, the ones who radiate energy and possibility. Their fortune is also infectious. Just as misery spreads, so too does joy, confidence, and success. Align yourself with those whose very presence strengthens you, whose lives are filled with momentum. Think of it like fire. The unlucky burn everything they touch. The fortunate, however, give light and warmth. Which will you stand beside? Ignore this law, and you will find yourself entangled in dramas not your own, carrying burdens that never belonged to you, sinking under the weight of another's misfortune. Observe carefully, when someone is always surrounded by chaos, there is no accident in it. They are the source. So protect yourself. Do not play the savior, do not imagine you are immune, and do not mistake their misfortune for chance. Distance is your shield, and discernment is your ally. Law 10, infection, avoid the unhappy and unlucky. Protect your spirit, for misery seeks company. Choose instead the company of the fortunate. Law 11, learn to keep people dependent on you. Power is never secure when it rests in the hands of another. If you depend on someone else's favor, approval, or goodwill, you are at their mercy. The key to long-lasting influence is simple but ruthless: make others depend on you. The more they need you, the more freedom you have. History is filled with those who understood this principle. Consider the story of the Italian noble Cesare Borgia, the ruthless son of Pope Alexander VI. Borgia's power rose not just from his family name but from his ability to make himself indispensable to the Pope. His political cunning, his military skill, and his ability to do what his father could not made him more than just a son. He became the Pope's greatest weapon. So long as Alexander VI needed him, Borgia's power remained untouchable. This law reveals a harsh truth: people may admire you, they may even love you, but admiration and love are fleeting. Need, however, is enduring. When someone believes they cannot succeed, survive, or thrive without you, you hold the strings of control. But dependence must be crafted carefully. If you provide too much freedom, people may decide they no longer need you. If you are too harsh, they may grow resentful and seek to escape. The art lies in balance: give them just enough to taste your value, while keeping them aware that without you, their foundation crumbles. Think of it like a chessboard. Every powerful player arranges the pieces so that others cannot make a move without consulting them first. If you become the bridge to their goals, the interpreter of their needs, the keeper of their stability, then they cannot remove you without harming themselves. Of course, dependence should not be built on fear alone. Sometimes it comes from making yourself a source of pleasure, of opportunity, of progress. When others see you as the gateway to something vital, wealth, knowledge, influence, protection, or even love, they bind themselves to you willingly. But remember, the moment people realize they can live without you, your power evaporates. To ignore this law is to risk irrelevance. To master it is to ensure your survival. So craft your relationships with intent. Be the sun that others orbit, the foundation that supports the structure, the secret key without which the lock cannot open. Law 11. Learn to keep people dependent on you. When others cannot breathe without your presence, they will never dare to cut the cord. Law 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. Honesty is a rare currency. In a world where deception is common, a single act of truth can pierce through doubt like a blade through silk. Used carefully, it becomes a weapon of immense power. This law reminds us that a well-timed act of honesty, or a calculated display of generosity, can lower another's defenses and disarm even the most suspicious opponent. Imagine this: a seasoned con artist walks into a crowded gambling hall. Everyone is wary, everyone watching their coins closely. But instead of trickery, the con artist begins with a small, genuine gesture, perhaps returning money that someone dropped, or openly admitting to a minor mistake. The crowd relaxes. Surely, they think, a man who tells the truth in small matters can be trusted in greater ones. And so, the stage is set for a much grander deception. History tells us of Count Victor Lustig, one of the most famous swindlers of the 20th century. When he tricked unsuspecting men into believing he could sell the Eiffel Tower, it was not brute force or sheer lies that sealed the deal. It was his careful use of honesty, sharing small truths, presenting genuine gestures, that made his targets lower their guard. By the time the fraud was revealed, Lustig had vanished, and his victims were left ashamed at how easily they were fooled. The lesson is clear: honesty is not a virtue here, it is a strategy. By offering a taste of truth, you make others swallow the larger lie without question. And generosity works in the same way. A gift given at the right time, a favor extended when least expected, can bind another person to you. Gratitude, after all, creates an invisible chain. They may not see the weight of it, but they will feel its pull when you later ask for something in return. But beware, like all weapons, honesty and generosity must be used sparingly. Too much truth and people begin to question your motives. Too much giving and they may sense manipulation. The key lies in precision: one carefully placed gesture can achieve what 100 lies cannot. So when you face suspicion, when a wall of doubt stands before you, don't rush to break it down. Instead, disarm it. Offer a truth, extend a hand, give just enough to make them believe you are on their side. And once the walls are lowered, the path to influence lies open before you. Law 12, use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. A single honest word can hide 1,000 lies. A single gift can buy a lifetime of loyalty. Law 13, when asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy. Human beings are moved by desire far more than by compassion. We like to believe that appeals to kindness or loyalty carry weight, but in truth, the strongest lever is self-interest. If you want others to act, show them how it benefits them, not you. Consider this: a beggar on the street asks for money, pleading about hunger or misfortune. Many pass by without a second glance. But if the same man were to say, "Give me a coin, and I'll show you a secret shortcut through the city," suddenly curiosity and personal gain awaken. The same coin is exchanged, but the reason behind it is different. One appeals to pity and often fails. The other appeals to benefit, and more often succeeds. History offers countless examples. During the Renaissance, Cesare Borgia, one of the most ruthless power players in Italy, never begged for loyalty. Instead, he made men see how their fortunes would rise if they stood beside him. Merchants, soldiers, and nobles alike followed him, not out of devotion, but because they saw their own gain tied to his success. Contrast this with those who appealed to pity, to mercy, or to friendship. They were quickly discarded, forgotten, or betrayed when circumstances changed. For self-interest is the one constant that never wavers. When you ask for help, don't dwell on your need. Instead, make your request irresistible by showing how it advances their ambitions, secures their safety, or satisfies their desires. If you can make them believe that by helping you they are helping themselves, resistance melts away. Think of it as a trade, not a plea. You are not taking from them, you are offering an opportunity. You are not asking them to lose, you are promising them a gain. But beware, if you appeal only to emotions like pity, you expose yourself as weak. People may help once, out of guilt, but they will not respect you. And without respect, influence dies. So, speak not to the heart, but to the hunger. Show them how your success feeds their own. Show them that by lifting you up, they climb higher too. Law 13, when asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy. It is not compassion that moves the world, it is the pursuit of advantage. Tie your request to that, and doors will open. Law 14, pose as a friend, work as a spy. Knowledge is power. But rarely will people hand over information if you openly ask. To truly understand others, their motives, their weaknesses, their secrets, you must learn to draw it out of them without their realizing it. The key is disguise. Pose as a friend, a confidant, a harmless presence. Listen more than you speak. People have a deep desire to reveal themselves, and if you give them space, they will. They will fill silences with confessions, share their doubts, and let slip ambitions they would never reveal to an enemy. Consider the courts of Europe, where intrigue was an art form. Monarchs and nobles trusted spies not dressed as agents, but as servants, companions, even lovers. These were the people who heard whispers in the night, who smiled kindly and nodded, all while memorizing every detail for their master. In our modern world, the principle remains the same. In business, politics, or personal dealings, the one who knows more has the advantage. When others believe you are simply listening as a friend, you are in fact gathering weapons of knowledge. And when the moment comes, you can strike with precision, because you understand them better than they understand themselves. But take care, do not reveal your own hand too freely. If you talk more than you listen, you surrender power. If you show your intentions openly, others will guard their tongues. Remember, the spider catches the fly not by force, but by patience and stillness. There is a paradox here: the closer you appear to someone, the less suspicious they become. Friendship disarms. Camaraderie makes them lower their guard. By the time they realize you were observing, it is already too late. Law 14, pose as a friend, work as a spy. Your power grows not from what you reveal, but from what you quietly collect. Let others talk, while you listen. Let them open the door, while you step silently inside. Law 15, crush your enemy totally. When conflict arises, the most dangerous mistake you can make is to stop halfway. A weakened enemy is not a defeated enemy. A cornered opponent, left with hope of recovery, will nurse their wounds in silence, plot in the shadows, and strike when you least expect it. History is filled with rulers and leaders who showed mercy, only to be destroyed later by those they spared. Think of the ancient world. Rival kings would wage war, but the wise conqueror understood, if you leave your opponent's power intact, if you allow them to retain influence or followers, you plant the seed of future rebellion. Only by removing every root can you ensure that nothing grows back. This law is not about cruelty for cruelty's sake, it is about survival. A rival will never forget humiliation, defeat, or the moment you bested them. Time will not heal these wounds, it will sharpen them. And once they regain strength, their vengeance will be merciless. In the political arena, this law is just as vital. A rival pushed aside but not eliminated becomes a constant threat. They will whisper against you, rally allies, and wait for your moment of weakness. To secure your position, you must deny them that chance completely. Of course, crushing an enemy does not always mean physical destruction. It may mean dismantling their influence, severing their alliances, or destroying their credibility so thoroughly that they can never rise again. The essence is finality, no escape, no return, no second chance. Mercy may win you praise in the short term, but it leaves danger smoldering beneath the ashes. True power demands clarity, either make peace so complete that hostility cannot return, or destroy opposition so totally that it cannot recover. Anything in between is weakness disguised as virtue. Law 15, crush your enemy totally. Do not wound the serpent, for it will strike back. Cut off its head, and it can never rise again. Law 16, use absence to increase respect and honor. Presence can be powerful, but too much presence breeds familiarity. And familiarity, over time, diminishes respect. The more available you are, the more ordinary you appear. People begin to take you for granted, assuming you will always be within reach. Absence, on the other hand, is a force of mystery. When you withdraw at the right moment, you create space that others fill with longing, speculation, and even admiration. Your absence magnifies your value, because people desire what they cannot always have. Think of the fire, if constantly fed, its flames rise high and wild, but soon consume everything and burn out. If starved of oxygen, it dies. Yet when carefully balanced, enough fuel, enough restraint, it endures, strong and bright. So it is with power. Appear often enough to remind people of your presence, but withdraw before your presence becomes dull. History tells of rulers who learned this art well. A monarch who makes himself scarce appears more majestic, his words more significant, his actions more profound. By contrast, the king who is always visible becomes no different from his subjects. What is rare is precious, what is common, loses worth. In relationships, the principle applies just as deeply. Overexposure dulls attraction. Constant communication weakens the impact of your voice. By stepping back, by letting silence linger, you allow your absence to speak louder than your presence ever could. People wonder about you. They wait for your return. And when you reappear, you command attention without effort. The danger lies in miscalculation. Withdraw too long, and you risk being forgotten. Disappear at the wrong time, and you may appear weak or fearful. The key is timing. Leave when your presence is most desired, and your absence becomes a powerful echo, one that amplifies your influence rather than erasing it. Law 16, use absence to increase respect and honor. Presence must be rare to be powerful. Step back at the right moment, and you will return not as ordinary, but as unforgettable. Law 17, keep others in suspended terror, cultivate an air of unpredictability. Human beings crave patterns. We look for consistency in others, expecting them to behave in ways that can be anticipated, explained, and controlled. Predictability brings comfort, it makes people feel secure. But if you want to hold power, security is the last thing you should give your rivals. Instead, learn to disrupt their expectations. By acting in ways that are sudden, surprising, and unconventional, you plant fear in their hearts. They begin to doubt themselves, second-guess their every move, and hesitate in the face of your unpredictability. The less they can read you, the more power you gain. Imagine a ruler who always responds with mercy, his enemies will exploit that softness. Or a commander who always retaliates with fury, his enemies will prepare for it. But the ruler who forgives one day and crushes the next, the leader who strikes without warning, instills terror far greater than strength alone ever could. This principle echoes through history. The great conquerors, the cunning politicians, the powerful strategists, many understood that confusion is a weapon. By keeping their adversaries guessing, they created hesitation, and hesitation is death in the arena of power. In daily life, unpredictability unsettles those around you. It forces people to treat you cautiously, to watch their words, to second-guess their assumptions. You are no longer someone they can easily classify or control. Your aura becomes dangerous, magnetic, commanding respect through the very fear of the unknown. But remember, unpredictability is a tool, not a lifestyle. Use it too often and it becomes its own pattern. Random chaos without strategy destroys trust and alienates allies. The true mastery lies in balance, stable enough to be followed, mysterious enough to be feared. Law 17, keep others in suspended terror, cultivate an air of unpredictability. Predictability breeds comfort, unpredictability breeds power. When no one can read your next move, they cannot prepare for it, and that fear is your greatest weapon. Law 18, do not build fortresses to protect yourself, isolation is dangerous. When faced with threats, the natural instinct is to retreat, to hide behind walls, to surround ourselves with barriers, to cut off the outside world. We believe distance equals safety. But in truth, isolation is a prison of our own making, and it weakens the very power we hope to protect. Fortresses, whether built of stone or silence, create blindness. You lose touch with the movements of your enemies, the whispers of the people, and the flow of opportunity. You may feel secure, but in reality, you are vulnerable, because while you sit behind walls, the world moves without you. Power requires presence. Influence requires connection. When you isolate, you remove yourself from the networks of information and relationships that keep you strong. History is filled with rulers who hid behind castles, only to be betrayed, forgotten, or destroyed, while those who moved among their people, who stayed close to allies and enemies alike, thrived. Yes, the world is dangerous. Yes, people plot, envy, and scheme. But your strength does not come from hiding, it comes from engaging. It comes from knowing what others think before they act, from sensing the shifting winds of loyalty, from being visible enough that your power cannot be denied. Isolation not only blinds you, it breeds weakness. The longer you retreat, the more your courage fades, the sharper your enemies grow, and the more your absence diminishes your authority. To cut yourself off is to surrender the very influence you seek to preserve. That does not mean recklessness. Move among people wisely. Stay aware. Protect yourself not with walls, but with information, alliances, and presence. The fortress is not made of stone, it is made of influence. Law 18, do not build fortresses to protect yourself, isolation is dangerous. Your power thrives in connection, not retreat. Step into the world, and you will rule it, hide from it, and you will lose it. Law 19, know who you're dealing with, do not offend the wrong person. Power is not just about strategy, it is about people. And people are not equal. Each carries hidden strengths, insecurities, tempers, and vulnerabilities. To move carelessly among them is to invite disaster, for the wrong offense against the wrong person can undo everything you've built. Some people forgive and forget. Others never let go. Some are sensitive to the smallest slight, while others are indifferent. Some are easily manipulated, while others carry grudges that last a lifetime. To treat them all the same is to walk blindly into traps of your own making. History is filled with tales of careless words and reckless gestures leading to downfall. A king mocks the wrong courtier, and that courtier poisons the royal ear with whispers of rebellion. A general humiliates a rival, only to discover that rival plotting revenge years later. Power does not fall from great battles alone, it often crumbles from one insult aimed at the wrong soul. To master this law, study people deeply. Watch their reactions, learn their temperaments, uncover their pride and their wounds. Some must be handled with softness, others with strength, still others with distance. The wise strategist adapts their approach, always aware of the unique nature of the person before them. Think of it as navigating a field of hidden mines. Step carelessly, and you may set off an explosion that was waiting in silence. Step carefully, with awareness and foresight, and you cross safely, reaching your goal untouched. This is not about fear, it is about intelligence. Know who thrives on flattery, who bristles at criticism, who hides ambition behind humility. The more you understand those around you, the fewer enemies you create, and the more power you secure. Law 19, know who you're dealing with, do not offend the wrong person. To offend the weak is safe. To offend the powerful is suicide. Power belongs to the one who can read people like a map, and never steps on the wrong landmine. Law 20, do not commit to anyone. The world of power is filled with alliances, promises, and loyalties that appear unshakable. But beneath the surface, these bonds are often fragile, born from convenience rather than true devotion. To tie yourself completely to one side, one person, or one cause is to surrender your independence, and with it, your power. Commitment makes you predictable. When others know where your loyalty lies, they can control you, exploit you, and take you for granted. Worse, if the person or side you've chosen falls, you fall with them. History is littered with figures who shackled themselves to a doomed master, a collapsing empire, or a fleeting cause, and vanished when their allegiance dragged them down. The powerful remain free. They do not bind themselves to permanent loyalties, but instead move like the wind, flexible, elusive, always weighing their options. By standing apart, you keep others guessing. You maintain leverage, because both sides will seek your favor, both will fear losing your support, and both will compete to win you over. This does not mean isolation. It means strategy. Align temporarily when it benefits you. Show favor when it strengthens your position. But never give away your freedom by declaring absolute loyalty. The moment you belong fully to another, you cease to belong to yourself. Consider the great courtiers of history, who survived shifting kings and turbulent courts by staying neutral, offering loyalty only when it was safe and withdrawing it when it was dangerous. Their secret was not betrayal, it was self-preservation. They lived to see many reigns, while those who bound themselves too tightly often lost their heads. Power lies in remaining unattached, always able to move, always able to choose. Others will respect your independence, even fear it, for they know they cannot control you. Law 20, do not commit to anyone. Stay free, stay elusive, stay your own. To be courted by many is power, to be chained to one is weakness. Law 21, play a sucker to catch a sucker, seem dumber than your mark. Pride is the softest spot in the human armor. Everyone wants to feel superior, more intelligent, more capable than the person standing before them. And when you allow others to believe that they are smarter than you, they lower their guard. In their arrogance, they reveal their secrets, their weaknesses, and their true intentions. To gain power, it is often wiser to appear simple, confused, or naive, rather than brilliant. When you flaunt intelligence, you provoke envy and suspicion. When you conceal it, you disarm your opponent. The powerful strategist knows how to dim their light, to play the fool, so that others overestimate themselves and underestimate you. History tells us countless tales of deception through feigned ignorance. Generals who pretended weakness to lure their enemies into ambush. Politicians who spoke in humble tones while manipulating those who dismissed them. Traders who acted as if they didn't know the value of gold, only to walk away with fortunes while the smarter man was blinded by his own ego. The trap works because pride blinds. When people think they are dealing with someone weaker, less clever, or less experienced, they relax. They boast, they underestimate, and they reveal. And at that moment, you strike, not with anger, but with quiet precision, taking what you need while they never even saw it coming. But beware, playing the fool must be done with skill. Overplay it, and you look suspicious. Underplay it, and your rival might detect the trap. The art is in balance. Appearing just clumsy enough, just naive enough, to make others lean in with confidence. In the end, the greatest advantage you can hold is being underestimated. When they think you are weak, they expose themselves. When they think you are dumb, they show their hand. And when they finally realize the truth, it is already too late. Law 21, play a sucker to catch a sucker, seem dumber than your mark. Let their pride blind them, let their ego lead them astray. The fool who knows he is acting is never truly the fool, he is the master. Law 22, use the surrender tactic, transform weakness into power. When you are weak, when the odds are against you, when confrontation would only bring destruction, there is a strategy more powerful than resistance: surrender. Surrender does not mean defeat. It is a pause, a yielding that buys you time, energy, and the opportunity to regain strength. To fight when you are too weak is to guarantee your own ruin. To retreat gracefully, however, confuses the enemy. They expect resistance, not submission. And in that confusion, you plant the seeds of future victory. Throughout history, wise leaders have used surrender as a tool. Entire kingdoms have bowed to stronger empires, only to slowly weave themselves into positions of influence, eventually reclaiming power from within. A warrior who knows when to lay down his sword ensures that he lives to fight another day. By surrendering, you deny your opponent the satisfaction of crushing you. Their triumph feels hollow, their vigilance fades, and their arrogance grows. They think the battle is over, while you quietly prepare for the next. In truth, surrender is not an end, it is a strategic delay. Think of surrender as water. It yields, it bends, it flows around the obstacle. Yet over time, it carves valleys, breaks stone, and reshapes landscapes. Resistance breaks against force, surrender endures and transforms it. But beware, surrender must never be confused with weakness of spirit. It is not about submission forever, but about timing. If you yield too often, you will lose respect. If you surrender with no plan, you will truly be defeated. But when done with foresight, surrender becomes the ultimate disguise, a retreat that masks your preparation for the decisive return. Law 22, use the surrender tactic, transform weakness into power. When you cannot win by force, win by patience. Let them believe they've conquered you, while you quietly set the stage for their downfall. Law 23, concentrate your forces. Power is not built by scattering your energy in all directions. It is built by focus, by pouring your strength, your time, and your resources into a single decisive point until it breaks through. Most people spread themselves too thin. They chase too many goals, fight too many battles, and divide their attention between too many distractions. In doing so, they weaken themselves. Their efforts lose momentum, their influence is diluted, and their progress stalls. The powerful, however, understand the law of concentration. They gather their forces. They choose the field, they select the target, and they channel all their energy into one strike. Like sunlight intensified through a magnifying glass, their focus becomes a fire that consumes obstacles and ignites opportunity. History is full of examples, great conquerors who ignored smaller battles to focus on the one campaign that would define their reign, entrepreneurs who abandon side projects to commit entirely to a single vision. Thinkers who dedicated their entire lives to mastering one discipline, becoming legends in their field. Concentration is not just about where you place your energy, it is also about where you refuse to place it. Ignore the trivial, the petty, the tempting diversions. Do not exhaust yourself by trying to do everything. Choose the one thing that matters most, and let the rest fade away. When you concentrate your forces, you create impact. People feel the weight of your presence, the inevitability of your ambition. You become like a storm gathered in one place, inescapable, unstoppable, undeniable. Law 23, concentrate your forces. Scatter your strength, and you are ordinary. Focus it, and you are extraordinary. The more concentrated your energy, the more explosive your power. Law 24, play the perfect courtier. In every age, power has lived in the court. Kings, emperors, presidents, CEOs, around them, always, are those who seek influence. And within these circles, survival and success depend not on brute force, but on subtlety, grace, and artful presence. This is the way of the courtier. The perfect courtier thrives in a world where attention is currency and flattery is a weapon. They do not demand power outright, they earn it by aligning themselves with those who hold it. Their skill is not in domination, but in persuasion. They read the moods of their masters, sense the hidden rivalries of the court, and position themselves always in favor, never in danger. To play this role, you must master restraint. Never overshadow the powerful. Instead, shine just enough to be noticed, but never so brightly that you outshine. Offer flattery without appearing servile. Give advice only when it will be welcomed. Speak gracefully, move elegantly, and above all, adapt endlessly. The courtier knows how to charm, how to entertain, and how to soothe egos. They are diplomats of daily life, weaving influence through every word and gesture. Where others demand, they suggest. Where others argue, they agree. Where others stumble in arrogance, they glide in humility. This is not weakness, it is power in its most refined form. For while brute strength may topple a fortress, it is charm and tact that keep a throne secure. A sword can only cut once, the courtier's influence endures for a lifetime. But beware, the court is dangerous. One wrong word, one careless act, and you may find yourself cast out, if not destroyed. The perfect courtier survives by constant awareness, endless patience, and the art of never being predictable. Law 24, play the perfect courtier. In the palace, in the boardroom, in the corridors of power, your ability to flatter, adapt, and serve with elegance will determine how high you rise. To win in the court, do not fight. Instead, enchant. Law 25, recreate yourself. You were not born with a fixed identity. The powerful know this truth, the self is not something discovered, it is something designed. To gain influence, to control perception, to shape destiny, you must learn the art of constant self-reinvention. Most people accept the roles handed to them. They live as they were told to live, boxed in by family expectations, social rules, and habits they never question. But if you wish to rise, you cannot simply be what the world expects. You must become what the world cannot ignore. To recreate yourself is to take command of the stage on which life is played. You are both actor and playwright, sculptor and clay. With each choice, you carve away the parts of yourself that no longer serve you and replace them with traits that command attention, respect, and fear. The masters of power throughout history understood this well. They shed skins like serpents, adopting new appearances, new behaviors, even new beliefs as the situation demanded. One day a warrior, the next a philosopher. One day a servant, the next a king. By reshaping themselves, they controlled not only how others saw them, but also how history remembered them. This is not about pretending, it is about becoming. If you play a role long enough with conviction, it ceases to be a mask and becomes your reality. Reinvention is transformation, and transformation is power. Ask yourself, does the person you are today serve the life you seek tomorrow? If not, let that old self die. Step into a new form, a stronger form, a form that inspires loyalty, fear, or wonder, whichever the moment requires. Law 25, recreate yourself. Do not be defined by the past. Do not be trapped by expectations. Power belongs to those who sculpt their identity as carefully as an artist sculpts marble. Life is theater, so write your script, design your costume, and play your role with brilliance. Law 26, keep your hands clean. Power is built on perception, and perception must remain spotless. The powerful understand that their image is everything. Even if they commit ruthless deeds, even if they scheme behind closed doors, their hands must appear pure, their conscience untarnished. The truth is this, power often requires dirty work. Manipulation, betrayal, sacrifice, these are the shadows behind the throne. But to preserve authority, someone else must carry the blame. The great rulers, the cunning leaders, the master strategists never appear as villains. They let others take the fall while they shine untouchable. To keep your hands clean, you must master the art of the scapegoat. When errors are made, when storms gather, there must always be someone ready to absorb the consequences. Let others suffer the stain, while you rise above it, untarnished. History remembers the name of the king, not the executioner. Another method is distance. Never be too close to the crime, never caught in the shadows where the truth lurks. If necessary, act through intermediaries. Whisper instructions instead of signing orders. Suggest instead of command. This way, when the fire burns, your name remains untouched. And above all, craft an aura of integrity. Let the world believe you incapable of cruelty or deceit. If people see you as virtuous, they will excuse the ruthless results of your actions, assuming they came from necessity, not malice. Appear clean, even if your hands built the entire empire from blood and ash. Law 26, keep your hands clean. Let others do the dirty work. Protect your image at all costs. For in the game of power, reputation is armor, and once it is stained, no amount of truth can wash it away. Law 27, play on people's need to believe. Human beings are seekers of meaning. Deep inside, they crave guidance, hope, and the promise of something greater than themselves. This hunger makes them vulnerable, and in that vulnerability lies power. The powerful know that when people believe, they surrender. They give loyalty, devotion, even their lives, to the figure who embodies their hopes. Throughout history, rulers, prophets, and leaders have mastered this law. They fed the people's yearning for faith, for belonging, for a vision of destiny. To play on this need, you must become more than a person, you must become a symbol. Offer a vision larger than life, something that answers the unspoken questions of the crowd: why am I here? What do I follow? What can I trust? Give them a cause, a doctrine, a mission, and they will follow with blind conviction. But beware, the belief must not come from logic, but from emotion. Logic is questioned, faith is embraced. Speak in grand, sweeping words, filled with promise. Make rituals, create myths, surround yourself with mystery. The more sacred you appear, the less anyone will dare to doubt you. Once people believe, they will defend you, excuse you, and even sacrifice themselves for you. You will no longer be judged as a person, but revered as an idea. And ideas are far harder to kill. Law 27, play on people's need to believe. Do not argue with reason when you can command faith. Inspire, mystify, lead people into devotion. For when belief takes root, power is not just given, it is worshipped. Law 28, enter action with boldness. In the arena of power, hesitation is death. Doubt, timidity, half-measures, these are the cracks through which defeat slips in. The bold, however, command attention, respect, and often, victory. When you act, act with certainty. Step forward with confidence so unshakable that others assume you must know something they do not. Even when you are unsure, project assurance. The world is drawn to strength, not hesitation. The timid invite attack, the bold inspire fear or admiration, but never indifference. History's great leaders knew this truth. When opportunities appeared, they did not wait for perfect conditions. They leapt. Boldness creates momentum, and momentum makes others follow. A decisive move often carries more power than a cautious calculation, because boldness itself convinces the world that you are destined to win. But remember, boldness does not mean recklessness. It is not blind foolishness, it is the art of making your actions so striking, so commanding, that others hesitate to oppose you. When faced with uncertainty, choose daring over doubt. When challenged, strike back with vigor, never with fear. Boldness has a magnetism. It pulls people into your orbit, makes them believe in your vision, and crushes opposition before it gathers strength. Law 28, enter action with boldness. Hesitation opens the door to defeat. Boldness, even when imperfect, closes it shut. Step forward with power, and the world will step aside. Law 29, plan all the way to the end. Power is not just about striking in the moment, it is about foresight. Those who think only of today are doomed to stumble tomorrow. The truly powerful see the entire battlefield, not just the fight before them. Every action, every move, must be guided by an endgame. Ask yourself, where does this lead? What will happen if I succeed, and if I fail? Without a clear destination, you risk being swept away by chance, emotion, or the schemes of others. History is filled with leaders and generals who triumphed early, only to fall later because they lacked vision beyond the first victory. They won the battle but lost the war. The wise, however, chart their course step by step, calculating not only their goals but also the obstacles, betrayals, and changes in fortune that may arise. Planning all the way to the end does more than protect you, it frightens your enemies and reassures your allies. People trust those who seem to know the path ahead, because certainty inspires confidence. And when the storms come, and they always do, it is the planner who remains steady, while others are swept away in chaos. Do not mistake improvisation for brilliance. Spontaneity without preparation is weakness in disguise. The stronger you appear, the more dangerous it is to be caught without a plan. Law 29, plan all the way to the end. See beyond the moment. Chart the course, anticipate the dangers, and prepare the conclusion before you even begin. For the end defines the journey, and only those who plan it can claim true power. Law 30, make your accomplishments seem effortless. True power is not just in what you achieve, it is in how you make it appear. The greatest victories, the most masterful works, must never reveal the blood, sweat, and sleepless nights behind them. To the world, your success should look natural, inevitable, almost effortless. Struggle is unattractive. If others see you laboring, they sense weakness, limitation, or desperation. But when your results appear smooth, graceful, and beyond ordinary comprehension, you inspire awe. People begin to believe you possess a gift, a genius, or a strength they cannot match. Consider the magician. His tricks are the product of relentless practice and preparation, yet his audience sees only wonder. The artist who conceals the brushstrokes, the general who hides the chaos of the battlefield, these are the ones who command respect. Their mastery seems otherworldly, and therefore untouchable. But there is a hidden warning: never boast about the effort. Do not reveal the hours of planning or the hardships endured. To do so diminishes the illusion and makes you seem ordinary. Instead, let your victories shine without explanation. The more natural they appear, the more extraordinary you seem. Law 30, make your accomplishments seem effortless. Behind the curtain, work with discipline, preparation, and precision. But when the curtain rises, show only grace, mastery, and brilliance. As if it all came with ease. For power lies not just in doing, but in making it look like destiny itself. Law 31, control the options, get others to play with the cards you deal. The illusion of choice is one of the greatest weapons of power. People resist when they feel forced, but when they believe they are deciding for themselves, they follow willingly. The key lies in shaping the landscape of options so that, no matter what they choose, it leads to your desired outcome. A master strategist does not shout commands, instead, they set the stage. Imagine a gambler who rigs the deck. Every card is stacked, but the players never realize it. They believe they are playing freely, unaware that the game was fixed from the start. By offering limited choices, you create a sense of control in others while holding the true control yourself. Whether it is this or that, yes or no, or option A versus option B, you remain the one who designed the framework. The choices are theirs only in appearance, the victory is yours in reality. This law is not only about domination, it is about psychology. People hate feeling manipulated, but they love feeling empowered. When you give them the illusion of agency, they embrace the path you want them to take. And when the outcome is reached, they will even defend the decision as their own. Law 31, control the options, get others to play with the cards you deal. Never confront people with blunt force when you can guide them with subtlety. Build the arena, set the rules, and hand out the cards. They may play the game, but it is your game, and therefore, your victory. Law 32, play to people's fantasies. Reality is harsh, cold, and often unbearable. Most people spend their lives weighed down by limits, disappointments, and unfulfilled desires. But within every heart lives a secret world of dreams and fantasies, places where they feel powerful, admired, and free. If you want to capture influence, do not feed people reality. Feed them their fantasies. The masses will always choose the comforting illusion over the painful truth. The ruler who promises paradise gains more followers than the one who delivers sober facts. The seducer who paints visions of love and endless desire wins hearts more easily than the one who shows only ordinary affection. To wield this law, you must learn to listen, not just to words, but to longings. What do people crave? Security? Adventure? Freedom? Immortality? Once you know their hidden desires, you can craft a vision that speaks directly to them. Offer not what is real, but what is wished for, and they will follow you as if enchanted. But beware, never shatter the illusion once it is built. Expose too much truth, and you will be hated. The power lies in sustaining belief, in letting people dream through you, even if only for a moment. Law 32, play to people's fantasies. Reality binds, but fantasy liberates. If you can become the source of escape, the dream giver, you will hold their loyalty, and their power, in your hands. Law 33, discover each man's thumbscrew. Every person, no matter how strong or proud they appear, has a weakness. It may be fear, insecurity, desire, or a hidden wound from the past. The powerful know that the surest way to influence others is not through brute force, but by finding the lever that moves them, the thumbscrew that, when pressed, bends their will. People reveal their weaknesses in subtle ways. Some wear their vanity like a crown. Others display their greed in small indulgences. Some cannot resist flattery, others collapse under criticism. The skilled observer watches closely, listens carefully, and notices what others overlook. A single careless word, a repeated habit, a nervous reaction, all are clues to the hidden pressure point. Once you discover this vulnerability, you hold the key to influence. You need not strike hard, only touch it gently, and the person becomes pliable. Offer what they crave, or threaten what they fear, and they will bend without resistance. This law is not about cruelty, it is about precision. Why struggle to overpower someone when you can disarm them with a single move? A general wins battles not by attacking everywhere at once, but by striking where the enemy is weakest. Law 33, discover each man's thumbscrew. Power lies not in overwhelming strength, but in knowing where to apply pressure. Find the hidden weakness, and you control the whole person. Law 34, be royal in your own fashion, act like a king to be treated like one. Power is perception. People treat you not as you are, but as you present yourself. If you carry yourself with dignity, confidence, and a sense of authority, others will instinctively bow to your presence. If you act small, desperate, or unsure, you invite disrespect and dismissal. Throughout history, kings and queens ruled not only with armies, but with image. Their very bearing demanded obedience. They dressed with majesty, spoke with authority, and never lowered themselves to common pettiness. Even without wealth or a throne, their aura commanded respect. The same principle applies to you. If you want to be treated like royalty, act like it. Carry yourself with self-assurance. Refuse to chase after attention or validation, instead, let it come to you. Never beg, never grovel, never shrink to please others. The way you set your own value is the way the world will value you. But beware, arrogance without substance will expose you as a pretender. True royal bearing is not loud or boastful, it is calm, assured, and unshakable. When you believe in your own worth, others will follow suit. Law 34, be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king to be treated like one. Appear powerful, and power will gravitate toward you. Law 35, master the art of timing. Patience is power. Acting too soon or too late can destroy even the most brilliant plans. Timing is the silent force that determines whether your actions succeed or fail. Those who understand it appear always in control, as if events themselves bend to their will. The wise observer waits for the right moment. They study the flow of events, the mood of people, and the rhythm of circumstances. A hasty move shows desperation, a delayed move risks irrelevance. True masters know when to act and when to hold back, letting opportunities ripen like fruit before plucking it. Rulers, generals, and entrepreneurs alike have thrived by respecting the invisible clock of events. They know that rushing invites mistakes, while waiting with patience can turn minor chances into monumental victories. Law 35, master the art of timing. Learn to wait. Study the moment. Strike when the opportunity is ripe, and success will seem effortless. Law 36, disdain things you cannot have, ignoring them is the best revenge. Desire is the flame that gives power to others. The moment you show that you desperately want something, or worse, that someone else has wounded your pride, they gain control over you. Your need becomes their weapon. The wise know this: when something is out of reach, do not chase it. When someone insults you, do not fight back in anger. When the world denies you, do not waste energy on bitterness. The more attention you give what you cannot have, the larger and more powerful it becomes. Instead, turn your back. Ignore the slight. Dismiss the prize. Treat the unattainable as beneath your notice. In time, the very act of indifference makes you appear stronger, while your enemies wither in the emptiness of your silence. History is filled with examples of rulers and thinkers who understood this law. The proudest kings never lowered themselves to answer insults. The sharpest minds never wasted time chasing what was impossible. They turned their focus elsewhere, and in doing so, drew others toward them. Resentment is weakness. Indifference is strength. By refusing to acknowledge what you cannot have, you rob it of its power over you. Law 36, disdain things you cannot have. Ignore them, and you rise above them. That is the ultimate revenge. Law 37, create compelling spectacles. Power is not only about words or actions, it is also about appearances. People are drawn to what dazzles, to what stirs their senses and emotions. A dramatic gesture, a grand display, or a carefully crafted spectacle can inspire awe, command attention, and make your presence unforgettable. Throughout history, leaders, rulers, and visionaries have understood this truth. Kings staged elaborate ceremonies to remind their subjects of their majesty. Generals orchestrated parades to showcase strength. Even in modern times, great influencers use image, theater, and performance to magnify their power. The lesson is clear: subtle arguments may be forgotten, but a spectacle sears itself into memory. When you create something visually striking, emotionally stirring, or symbolically grand, you lift yourself above the ordinary. People may not even fully understand your power, but they will feel it. But beware, empty spectacle without substance will eventually expose you as hollow. The best displays are backed by true strength and purpose. The spectacle is not the power itself, it is the stage upon which your power is revealed. Law 37, create compelling spectacles. Dazzle the eye, stir the heart, and power will follow. Law 38, think as you like but behave like others. Freedom of thought is yours alone. Inside your mind, no one can control your beliefs, your opinions, or your desires. But in the public eye, to stand too far apart, to flaunt your difference openly, is to risk isolation, and isolation is weakness. Human nature seeks belonging. People distrust what seems strange or rebellious to the customs they hold dear. To openly mock, resist, or reject the values of society is to provoke unnecessary enemies. Even if you are right, your truth will not protect you from the crowd's resentment. The wise understand this balance. You may think as radically as you wish in private, but in public, blend in. Smile where others smile. Nod where others nod. Appear to respect what they respect, even as your mind quietly pursues its own path. This is not hypocrisy, it is strategy. The revolutionary who shouts too loudly before his time is crushed. The one who conceals his difference, waits patiently, and moves in silence, survives to bring lasting change. Law 38, think as you like but behave like others. Keep your independence of thought, but wear the mask of conformity. Law 39, stir up waters to catch fish. Anger is a weakness. Impatience is a weakness. When you lose control of your emotions, you reveal your hand and give your enemies power over you. But when you control the tempo, when you deliberately stir emotion in others, you hold the strings. The wise strategist knows, if you can make your opponent angry, you can make them careless. If you can provoke them, you can push them into rash mistakes that serve your advantage. Like muddy waters, chaos clouds vision, and in that chaos, you are the only one who sees clearly. This law is not about being cruel for its own sake. It is about recognizing that calmness is power. You must remain steady, unshaken, no matter what storm is raging around you. Instead, become the one who creates the storm. Plant doubts, spark arguments, or release rumors that unsettle your rivals. While they thrash about, you stand still, poised, and ready to strike. Remember, people reveal their true selves not in calm, but in anger. When you control their emotions, you control their decisions. Law 39, stir up waters to catch fish. Stay calm, make others lose their balance, and their defeat is certain. Law 40, despise the free lunch. Nothing in life is truly free. Every gift, every favor, every easy handout carries an invisible price. When you accept what costs you nothing, you often pay with your dignity, your independence, or your freedom of choice. Powerful people understand that what is free is often a trap. The free lunch binds you to another's will, makes you feel indebted, and places you under their control. But when you pay your own way, when you choose independence over dependence, you remain untouchable. To despise the free lunch is not about arrogance, it is about self-preservation. The one who pays sets the terms. The one who accepts blindly is enslaved. Be generous when you choose, but never gullible when others offer too much. Always ask, what is the hidden cost? Value comes from effort, from risk, from investment. What you earn, you own. What you are given freely may end up owning you. Law 40, despise the free lunch. Buy your freedom. Pay your way. True power is never free. Law 41, avoid stepping into a great man's shoes. It is tempting to inherit greatness. To step where a powerful figure once stood, hoping their glory will rub off on you. But history teaches a harsh truth, those who follow legends are often forgotten, or worse, crushed under the weight of comparison. The shadow of a great man is long. Their reputation, their achievements, their myth, these are chains that can bind you before you even begin. When people look at you, they do not see you. They see the one who came before, and they judge you against a standard that is impossible to meet. True power comes not from imitation, but from creation. You must build your own path, your own image, your own stage. Step away from their shoes and carve out ground untouched by others. Distinguish yourself. Make the world speak your name, not theirs. Even in families, dynasties, and companies, the successor who thrives is not the one who tries to be a mirror, but the one who dares to be different. Law 41, avoid stepping into a great man's shoes. Forge your own legacy. Live in no one's shadow. Law 42, strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. In every group, every movement, every circle of influence, there is a leader. They may not always hold the official title, but their presence shapes the actions of those around them. When discontent spreads, when rebellion brews, it is rarely the masses who drive it. It is the shepherd. Attack the flock directly, and you will exhaust yourself. But strike at the source, the leader, the influencer, the instigator, and the rest will crumble. Remove the figure who gives energy and direction, and the followers are left confused, powerless, without purpose. Power requires precision. Identify the true shepherd. It may not be the loudest voice, but the one people quietly obey. Once revealed, you must act decisively. To leave them standing is to invite endless resistance. History shows us, armies collapse when their generals fall, revolts die when their leaders vanish, and even whispers fade when the tongue that spreads them is silenced. Law 42, strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. Cut off the source of influence, and the rest will follow. Law 43, work on the hearts and minds of others. Power is never secured by force alone. You may win obedience through fear, you may silence voices with strength, but such victories are brittle. They crumble when pressure mounts, for fear breeds resentment, and resentment waits patiently for the moment to strike back. To hold power that lasts, you must move deeper, beyond outward compliance, into the very hearts and minds of people. Influence them not only with what you do, but with what they feel. Make them believe your cause is their cause. Let them think your vision is their vision. Win their emotions, and you win their loyalty. A ruler who ignores the heart lives in constant danger. Soldiers may obey a commander they hate, but they will not die for him. Followers may serve a leader they fear, but they will abandon him when storms rise. The true master of power works with subtlety, using charm, persuasion, and inspiration. Give people a sense of belonging. Make them feel understood. Shape their desires so that they willingly walk the path you set. Once their hearts and minds are yours, their hands and actions will follow without question. Law 43, work on the hearts and minds of others. Win love, and loyalty will outlast fear. Law 44, disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. There is no weapon more unsettling than a mirror. When you reflect back to people their own behavior, their own words, their own actions, you strip them of balance. They are left staring at themselves, unable to attack you directly. If someone insults you, repeat their words calmly, like a reflection. If they use aggression, mirror it back with equal force, but not more. If they play tricks, show them their own trick in reverse. By doing so, you rob them of the advantage. For no one expects to fight against themselves. The mirror effect disarms because it denies the opponent new ground. They cannot find an opening if every move they make bounces back at them. Yet, it also infuriates, because it exposes their behavior for what it truly is, childish, petty, or transparent. Many enemies will collapse under the frustration of being faced with their own reflection. The power of the mirror lies in its simplicity: you do not attack, you reveal. You do not oppose, you reflect. And in reflection, you force your opponent into a confrontation not with you, but with themselves. Law 44, disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. Show people their own face, and they will destroy themselves with anger. Law 45, preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once. People crave progress, but they fear disruption. Change excites them in theory, yet in practice it unsettles their routines, their habits, their sense of security. If you rush into sweeping reforms, you will awaken resistance, not because your ideas are bad, but because you move too fast. The wise strategist introduces change carefully, step by step, cloaked in familiarity. Always connect the new to the old, dressing innovation as a continuation rather than a rupture. A sudden break threatens identity, a gradual shift feels natural, almost inevitable. History is littered with reformers who pushed too hard, too fast, only to be overthrown by the very people they sought to improve. But those who understood human nature knew how to pace their movements. They spoke of continuity while planting seeds of transformation. Power is not about destroying the past, but bending it so it leads naturally to your future. Keep the comfort of tradition alive, even as you steer people into a new reality. Law 45, preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once. Move slowly, dress novelty in the clothing of the familiar, and progress will endure. Law 46, never appear too perfect. Perfection is a dangerous illusion. To appear flawless is to awaken envy, and envy is the silent assassin of power. People do not forgive those who seem untouchable, they admire brilliance, but they resent what they cannot match. If you shine too brightly, you risk becoming a target. Even allies will whisper against you, searching for cracks in your armor. To maintain influence, you must hide some flaws, reveal small weaknesses, and allow others to feel superior in certain ways. This keeps their pride intact while lowering their guard. Remember, vulnerability is not always a weakness. Used strategically, it humanizes you. It softens envy, invites empathy, and keeps you safe from the daggers of resentment. The great ones throughout history knew this truth: to appear mortal is to disarm hostility. To display effort, to admit to a small failing, to let others win occasionally, this preserves your power more than cold perfection ever could. Law 46, never appear too perfect. Leave room for imperfection, and your strength will remain untouchable. Law 47, do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, learn when to stop. Victory is intoxicating. When success finally comes, it tempts you to push further, to grasp for more, to believe that the momentum will never end. But unchecked ambition has undone more rulers, generals, and leaders than failure itself. The moment of triumph is also the moment of greatest danger. Why? Because the ego grows restless. The applause feeds desire. And suddenly, enough is no longer enough. In trying to take more, you invite resistance. You stretch yourself thin. You awaken enemies who once stayed silent. The wise understand that power is not only in gaining, it is in holding. To secure your position, you must know when to pause, when to consolidate, when to enjoy the fruits of victory without overreaching. History is filled with those who ignored this law, leaders who conquered too much, inventors who overcomplicated their brilliance, rulers who stayed 1 year too long. Their downfall was not from weakness, but from not knowing when to stop. Law 47, do not go past the mark you aimed for. Stop at the right moment, and your power will last. Go too far, and you will lose everything. Law 48, assume formlessness. Rigid structures are comforting. A solid plan, a fixed identity, a clear method, they give the illusion of control. But in the ever-shifting game of power, rigidity is your enemy. To be too defined is to be predictable. To be predictable is to be vulnerable. Power belongs to those who can adapt. Like water, they take the shape of whatever vessel they find themselves in. Like smoke, they move where others cannot grasp them. They do not allow themselves to be boxed in by expectations, traditions, or even their own past successes. When enemies think they know your pattern, dissolve it. When rivals expect firmness, become fluid. When the world believes it has you figured out, shift and reinvent yourself. Formlessness confuses, disorients, and denies others the chance to strike at a clear target. This is the highest form of power, not simply to win battles, but to remain untouchable, indefinable, and ever-evolving. Law 48, assume formlessness. Do not cling to structure. Be adaptable, elusive, and impossible to pin down. In formlessness, you find ultimate freedom.